Oftentimes in your life, there are things that can only be described as that thing. For instance, in every group of friends, there is that guy. On every album, there is that song. It's not a term of endearment, though it doesn't necessarily have a negative connotation. It's just there. Well, in all the video games I have ever played, I can say that Alter Echo for the PlayStation 2 is that game. Alter Echo was developed by Outrage Entertainment and published by THQ for the PlayStation 2 and Xbox in 2003. It's a third-person action platformer starring Nevin, a sarcastic punk with a heart of gold. Nevin is a shaper, a kind of psychic that can transform an organic substance called plast with his mind. He has been sent to the planet Proteus, a planet that is literally made out of plast, to track down the rogue shaper Pavo, who has transformed all the plast on the planet into a new sentient substance called Echoplast. The Echoplast is now waging a war against Pavo and recruits Nevin by making him a special combat suit out of its own flesh and some sort of crazy backwards Jane Doe shit. I don't like to think about that plot detail too much. The suit is the big selling point of the game because it actually has three forms. The sword form is just Nevin walking around with a big purple sword. This is the basic form and generally the most effective. Next is the gun form, which takes the shape of a giant mech. It's slower than the others, but it can absorb bullets, and when it's upgraded, it becomes pretty devastating. The third one is the stealth form, which takes the shape of some sort of lizard wolf creature. It's only called stealth because it has an invisibility feature that you use in probably less than 5 levels in the whole game. This suit is more useful for walking on walls or pouncing on your enemies' heads to scalp them. The suits add an interesting flair to the gameplay since you can change between them at any time, and sometimes one form will be suited for a specific foe than another. The flaw in this design is that occasionally the game will send 3 different kinds of enemies at once, so you constantly have to shift between suits to do any kind of damage. This is only amplified by 10 when you're facing elite monsters that will block any combos that you try to do more than once. It's not thought-provoking, it's not strategic, it's just frantic. One other main element of the gameplay is in the nodes that appear every so often. There are health nodes that heal you, gun nodes that attach your gun form to a massive turret, sync nodes that allow you to reshape the environment, master nodes that eliminate Pavo's influence in a certain region, and upgrade nodes where you can buy new combos and increase your health. Sync nodes and master nodes are used by means of a mini-game, in which you enter a grid and have to time button presses to activate all the nodes in the grid. This same minigame is used in the combat feature Time Dilation, in which Nevin freezes time and cuts some bitches in some sort of trippy Aurora Borealis. Time Dilation is a cool effect, and the minigames are generally short enough so it doesn't feel like it's breaking up the action too much. One thing I can definitely give the game credit for is the partner AI. Through the course of the game, you'll occasionally have one of 2 partners who are on the same expedition as you. The first one is Arana. While not useless, she just kinda talks when she's around. What's most surprising about her character is that at one point the game indicates that you, the player, are attracted to her. And that's just... no. The other partner is Stone. He's your basic badass squad leader character, but he easily has the best writing in the game and is by far the one I cared about most. He's also helped by the fact that he will hold down switches for you, help you shoot down walls, time his attacks, and blast the hell out of anything that tries to attack you. The levels in which you cooperate with Stone are easily some of the best in the game. The levels themselves are all pretty short. You generally only need to accomplish one objective, often just in one room, but sometimes they'll push it upwards into 2 or 3. Now, there are certainly games that have done something similar. Make small environments for each level, and then just make a bunch of levels. The difference between this game and others is that Alter Echo doesn't know how to utilize an environment for all it's worth. I can only name 1 or 2 areas that were fully realized, and one of them was recycled twice throughout the game. Most levels just look like someone took some handfuls of silly putty and stuck them together, then cut out a bowl shape in the middle. I know that's just the way the Echoplast is supposed to look, but this is one game where the overarching consistency was actually a problem for me as I played it. Despite this, I will commend the pacing. Short levels means they can run with a lot of ideas and shuffle around combat missions with platforming missions and partner missions. It kept my interest through the 6 hours it took to beat. But there is another side to the coin in pacing. Games by nature have a learning curve. Theoretically, the longer you play, the better you get. This goes double for games with an upgrade feature. You literally will not get better until you have gotten further into the game. So I have to ask, why does the game introduce elite enemies in the first few levels? No new player is ready to handle that. For one thing, you don't have enough combos to be able to mix up your attacks. You also don't have all the health upgrades that come in handy. No, they decide to send the elites at you in the beginning, just to make sure you're awake, I guess. Because just a few missions after that, it's back to the common enemies. Like the elites didn't even happen. If you decide to play this game, my only suggestion is to do what I did and get the stun thrust upgrade as early on as possible. It stuns enemies for a few seconds, which definitely helps when you're dealing with 4 or 5 elite enemies at once. The story is just kind of creepy. Pavo is some weird, sick bastard who keeps trying to insinuate that you and the Echoplast have some kind of sexual attraction going on. The gameplay has its fun parts, but the story was kind of a turnoff because of Pavo's comments, Nevin's extraordinary lameness, and the boring character interaction. I do have to say, though, that defeating the final boss does lead to one of the coolest boss takedowns ever. The music is also pretty underwhelming, but that's not terribly surprising. This game is full of bizarre moments, none of which are lost in the extras. The trailers for the game indicate it's something entirely different, and the one music video they have uses a random track that is just some typical techno set to some trippy flashing lights. I'll upload that whole thing separately because it's something, alright. Alter Echo isn't a bad game, which earns it at least a 5 in my book. The pacing is decent, so I'll give it an extra point for that. Also, I'm willing to grant an extra half point just for Stome. So at the end, I'm settling on a flat 6.5. Since a 6 is just okay, and a 7 is pretty good, I'd say that Alter Echo certainly fits in comfortably between the two. Despite the score, this is not a game that I can recommend. If you already own it and have never gotten around to it, it may be worth a shot, but I don't think this is something to go seeking out. And before anyone says, "But you gave Jersey Devil a 6 and said you do recommend that," yes, I know. My scores and my recommendations are mutually exclusive things. The score is what I personally think of the game. The recommendation is based on whether or not I think others might enjoy it. Don't dwell on the details, get with the game.